All right, let's just jump right into this. Today, we're going on a journey to uncover the shared architectural DNA of literally all human society. You know, if you've ever stopped to look at a sprawling modern megacity and wondered, wait, exactly how did we get here? How did we go from scattered groups to building massive skyscrapers, writing complex laws, and managing global trade networks? Well, the answer is surprisingly simple, and honestly, kind of messy. It's wild to think about, but our highly advanced, hyper-complex world, it basically started in the mud. Yep, dirt and water. We're going to explore how simple, totally unpredictable floodwaters sparked the absolute greatest societal leap in human history.
So here's our core question. Why on earth did humanity's greatest leap forward start in the mud? Think about it for a second. Our modern world, with its highly specialized jobs, sprawling governments, and massive populations, none of that just appeared out of thin air. It was born from dirt, water, and the incredibly unpredictable forces of nature. To understand who we are right now, we really have to look back at the geographical lottery our ancestors won thousands of years ago.
And that geographical lottery was hit big in 4 specific cradles of civilization. We're talking Mesopotamia along the Tigris and Euphrates, the Harappan in the Indus Valley, the Egyptians along the Nile, and the Chinese civilization on the Yellow River. The one massive common denominator uniting every single one of them? Rivers. Rivers were everything. They were the ultimate catalysts. They provided natural highways for transport, essential water for irrigation, and crucially, they deposited rich alluvial soil. I mean, this was basically nature's most perfect, nutrient-dense fertilizer just left behind by receding floodwaters. This wasn't just a nice place to grab a drink. This was the foundational engine driving all of human progress.
The math here is actually a really elegant cause and effect chain. Step 1, the rivers flood, depositing that incredibly rich soil right onto the banks. Step 2, because of that perfect soil, agriculture completely takes off. For the first time, people aren't just barely scraping by. They're actually creating a surplus of food. And step 3, food surplus inevitably, predictably explodes into population growth. When you've got extra food, well, fewer people need to spend their entire day hunting and gathering. You can feed more people in one place all year round. It's a simple equation, really. Water plus dirt equals food surplus. And that is the absolute bedrock for the development of towns and eventually full-blown cities.
To see how this actually builds, let's start in Mesopotamia. And here's a fun fact. The very word Mesopotamia literally translates to the land between 2 rivers, specifically the Tigris and Euphrates in present-day Iraq. I absolutely love this detail because it just highlights how entirely dependent these early people were on their local geography. They literally named their whole existence after the water that kept them alive.
It's in this specific cradle of civilization that humanity truly started to flex its muscles. We're talking about building massive early cities like Ur and Babylon. But here's the thing, they didn't just build walls, they built complex systems. They developed cuneiform, one of the earliest writing systems known to man. And why invent writing? Well, mostly to keep track of their booming trade and, inevitably, to write laws so they could tax people. Because, suddenly, society was way larger and way more complicated than ever before. Agriculture, trade, and skilled craftsmanship quickly became the bedrock of their entire economy.
Now, let's pivot westward to North Africa. The Egyptian civilization developed along the banks of the mighty Nile River, and the Nile was the absolute lifeline of Egypt. Its annual floods were incredibly predictable, making the surrounding land a fertile paradise for growing wheat and barley. Because they were so wildly successful at farming, Egyptian society generated immense wealth. This surplus freed them up to be ruled by pharaohs, kings they literally considered to be divine, living gods. Plus, their deep religious belief in the afterlife, which was funded by all that agricultural wealth, allowed them to build jaw-dropping monuments like the pyramids of Giza. They weren't just surviving, they were thriving, making massive leaps in architecture, medicine, math, and art.
So the crucial takeaway here is that surplus creates innovation. If the Egyptians were the master monument builders, the Harappans over in the Indus Valley were the ultimate urban planners. Located in the northwestern parts of the Indian subcontinent, they built incredibly advanced cities. We're talking straight roads laid out in strict grid patterns, houses built with sturdy baked bricks, and, perhaps most mind-blowing for the time, advanced drainage systems. It shows an absolutely incredible level of planning and a real focus on public health. On top of that, they were master craftsmen and heavy traders, using distinctive seals to mark goods, proving they had long-distance trade networks set up with pretty distant lands. Finally, let's head eastward to ancient China, developing along the Yellow River or the Huanghe. Now, the Yellow River was a bit of a double-edged sword. It provided gorgeous, fertile land, sure, but it also unleashed highly destructive floods that made life incredibly tough. Yet, despite facing these massive, ongoing environmental challenges, Chinese civilization built a remarkably resilient society. They grew millet and rice and made world-changing contributions: silk production, advanced pottery, bronze tools, and their own early writing. But what really anchored this society through all those natural disasters was a deep cultural foundation. Strong family ties, deep respect for elders, and enduring traditions played a massive role in holding everything together.
Section 2. The Societal Architecture, Organizing the Masses. All right, so we've taken our little geographic tour, but as these river valleys pumped out surplus food and populations absolutely exploded, humanity desperately needed structure to prevent total chaos. Enter the social pyramid. The game-changing concept here is the division of labor. Think about it. Before this, basically everyone had to hunt or gather just to stay alive. But with extra food, society could finally divide into different groups based on specialized jobs. Farmers formed the massive foundation at the bottom, producing the food. Above them, you had artisans and craftsmen making tools, then traders moving those goods around. Higher up were the priests who held immense power communicating with the gods. And right at the top, the rulers and nobles controlling the land and resources. This division of labor was a massive technological leap, even though it also baked in the strict social classes that define so much of human history.
Of course, alongside a social pyramid, you need political structure. Early civilizations centered on strong kings. And this wasn't a democracy. Kingship was hereditary, passed down the family line. But a king's job wasn't just lounging on a throne. They were completely responsible for maintaining law and order, protecting the kingdom, and yes, collecting taxes. They took those taxes and organized massive public works that actually benefited everyone. Vast irrigation canals to control the river water, extensive road networks for trade, huge protective walls. To manage all this, kings relied on complex networks of administrators and officials. What we're really looking at here is the literal birth of government bureaucracy.
But you know, the force that truly glued all these different classes and rules together: religion. And for them, it wasn't just a weekend activity. It was deeply spiritual, but also intensely practical. People directly worshipped the natural forces that controlled their fate: the sun, the moon, the rain, and obviously, the rivers. Why? Because their agricultural survival depended on it. They prayed constantly for good harvests and protection from disasters. Temples became the physical beating hearts of these cities, where powerful priests led elaborate rituals. Beyond that, these religious beliefs completely shaped their moral values, their social customs, and inspired their most breathtaking art. Really, religion was the lens through which they understood a very dangerous, totally unpredictable world. When we pull all these threads together, the transformation is honestly staggering. The catalyst was purely natural, right? Just muddy rivers depositing nutrient-rich soil, creating a food surplus. But the result? The result was the birth of complex, highly ordered societies. We're talking centralized administration, written laws, organized religion, monumental architecture, and specialized social classes. From simple boats transporting grain down a river, we got the exchange of big ideas, the rapid spread of technology, and the entire organized framework of human civilization. Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. Today, obviously, we just buy our food in supermarkets. We aren't anxiously watching river water levels to decide if we'll survive the winter. But I want you to take a look around at your life. Look at the specialized division of labor in your own workplace. Look at the written laws governing your city, the taxes we pay to fund infrastructure, and the hierarchical structures of our modern governments. So how much of our hyper-advanced society is actually just running on that exact same ancient, muddy blueprint? Turns out we might not have evolved quite as far from those riverbanks as we like to think. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and as always, keep questioning the foundations of the world around you.